I will see what I can do with your list of requirements. So, good morning, thanks for coming. It's always delightful to be here at PHP Yorkshire. This is basically my home conference, as I am based nearby in Huddersfield. So I actually did stay over last night, but I can do this one from home. So thanks for coming to see me, which is what this feels like. My name's Lorna. Some of you know me for sure, but not all of you do. Right now I'm working as a developer advocate at Nexmo. Nexmo deserve a mention because they're also sponsors, as well as letting me come here. We do telephony APIs, so if you need to send messages, make calls, make video calls, we have an API platform for that. Apart from that, they'll only get mentioned in stories about things we shouldn't have done with Git repositories. Hopefully that's also good publicity. Outside of my day job, I'm an open source maintainer. I have been on a variety of projects for a number of years, and that number shall remain undetermined. GitHub didn't exist till about 2009, so you can't tell how long I've been doing this. A lot of the stories that you'll hear today come from the open source world, and in particular the Joined In project. If you're not already familiar with Joined In, you will be, because every speaker you see today will mention it, asking you to go and give them some feedback. I credit Joined In with being the reason that I can hardly get a slot at PHP conferences these days, because the standard of speaking has improved so much, allowing speakers to get their own feedback. I was a maintainer on that project for a number of years. I'm no longer involved, so please don't complain to me about it. But it's much more polite to tell stories about open source stuff that might already be community folklore than it is to tell stories about your colleagues. Or I was a consultant for a lot of years, and I try not to tell stories about those well-respected paying customers, because that is also rude. Okay, a meritocracy of pull requests. I'm guessing you know about pull requests. There's something that we come up against a lot. Being good at pull requests is kind of a key skill. Let's talk about meritocracy. Here's the dictionary definition. And I'm really looking at the third bullet point. A social system formed on the basis of talent and intellect. So your pull requests is not about who opened the pull request. It's not about how senior you think you are or your colleagues think you are. Those two things might not match up. That's okay, I'm on your side. It's about what's important in a pull request and judging those pull requests simply on their qualities. How good is your pull request? How complete is it? Is it deployable? Is it operable? Have you thought about the side effects? Is it clear what it is for? All pull requests are not created equal, but we're going to make yours a little bit more equal than the others, so you can get things done. So, who opens a pull request? All the image credits are to octodex.github.com, so if you're bored, go there. There's some wonderful art. Who opens a pull request? You do. We all do. Most of us are using Git and the pull request flows at work, as well as if you are open source contributors. Who reviews a pull request? The answer should still be, you do. In open source, we tend to use the Gatekeeper Pattern. We have nominated individuals who are maintainers of the project. They have commit access, and they take responsibility for what goes into that project and maintaining everything that goes in. At work, I sometimes see the Gatekeeper Pattern used in commercial teams, where only the senior developer is somehow worthy of committing. I really dislike this pattern. As the senior developer, you can't get anything else done. All you do is review pull requests. You're not actually developing a tool, and this is probably not what you signed up for. So that's a problem. It means that you can't contribute at the level that you're capable of because you're so busy gatekeeping everybody else's work. I used to work for a team who, this is before source control really, when your feature was ready, you pressed the My Feature is Ready button, and it would randomly assign someone to review your feature. It was literally like a round-robin kind of feature. Like, that sounds like a nightmare, but actually it had a lot of hidden benefits. First of all, it spreads the workload, so that's nice. It means that everybody in the team is seeing how everyone else in the team works. So if you see a good idea, right? You can use it in your own work, and because we're all reviewing for each other, we cross-pollinate that. We spread the good stuff, because we see things in other people's work. There are lots of times where you might want an expert in a particular part of the system to review a particular pull request, but by getting as many people into that pool as possible, we spread the knowledge, we spread the skills. I really think that reviewing pull requests is something that all of us can get better at. Being a good pull request reviewer is the most valuable thing you can do for any team. And it's not really just about code. I now write more words than code, and I still think it's really, really valuable. Being an awesome reviewer makes you an even better contributor. It enables you to ship your own stuff. So reviewing pull requests is really tightly tied to creating the good ones. And getting inside the head of the reviewer is what will enable you to be a top contributor. It's really all about empathy. Let's think about the process. Right, you open a pull request, and it ends up in one of these two states. Either gets merged, or it gets closed. The process is all about the outcomes. Right, you need to understand what causes things to end up in one of these statuses before you can think about the right way to do this end of the process. Therefore, we will begin at the end and go on until we get to the beginning. Let's talk about closing pull requests. If you have commit access on a repository, you're empowered to close a pull request. If you don't think this code can ever be part of your project, then close it. This is GitHub. There is a reopen button. We're not upsetting anybody. There's nothing we can't undo. But if you don't think it should be here, then you need to take responsibility for that. It's part of having commit rights, is owning every part of that process. If you are going to close a pull request, close it now. Don't leave it hanging around. I've got things open on GitHub that have been there for years. They're probably never getting merged. They probably can't merge them now, right? Just be kind, be clear, and close it. Just say so. Some of my worst open source drama experiences have been a direct result of not closing a thing that I should have closed. So what kind of stuff ends up getting closed? Well, it might be simply that the pull request is too large. This is an extreme example, but I memorably once woke up one morning to find a pull request that rewrote the entire of joined in a different framework. And it arrived unexpectedly in a single pull request. The highly esteemed community member who did that work is probably still angry. Right? There's no way I can review that. I don't write this framework. I can't maintain it. I can't establish whether every part of the system still functions as it did. I mean, joined in didn't have any tests at that point either, so I was really dead in the water. There is no way I could ever have safely accepted that pull request, and it shouldn't have been opened in the first place. Was the quality of that pull request worse than the existing project? I doubt it. It was probably a lot better. But how can I safely accept it? I can't. So it's an extreme example, but there are lots of reasons why your pull request might be too large. If you decide to change the coding standards on my whole project, I can't review that either. Right? So think about what can safely be reviewed, safely be accepted, safely be supported. Other things you should consider closing. Features we don't want. Joined in is a magnet for features we don't want. It's amazing what people think this quite focused, allowing people to get feedback on their talks project should also do. It extends to receiving feedback via SMS, a lot of call for papers functionality, unconference voting, scheduling, all kinds, right? This project does one thing, and when it does it really well, maybe we'll add something else, but we're not there yet. So think about, is this really necessary? Is this useful to enough of our users? At work, hopefully you have a ticketing system and things get sorted out before they arrive at you. But just in case they don't, or if you have open source stuff going on, actually, does this belong here? Does this meet our goals? Will this help us to meet our goals? Just think about it, because if not, it's a good reason to close it. When you accept code into your project, you support that code until the end of time. Is this pull request worthy of that level of commitment? Because if not, it is better not to accept it in the first place. Here's a pro tip. Small pull requests are safe to create, safe to review, safe to merge. It's easy to understand the side effects. If you want to ship it, you ship it like this. This is how things get done. It keeps your work moving more quickly. You're not going to see merge conflicts. This is how we keep things moving through. If you take one piece of advice from today, it might be this. Most other problems stem from pull requests being too large. Sometimes closing a pull request can really be a positive thing. I've seen 2 or 3 major open source situations where we've closed it, there's been an argument, but the second attempt has been totally worth it, right? We've regrouped, we've built it a different way, maybe we closed it because we thought it wouldn't scale, maybe we closed it because we thought it wasn't the right way to solve a problem, or the community couldn't manage those dependencies, whatever the reason was. If it comes round again, it is so much better the second time around. So be ruthless. Think about how good you want your project to be. Always be kind, always be clear, always say thank you. But if you're going to close it, then close it. That was a bit of a downbeat start. I was like, here's a load of bad things to open my talk with. I hope you're all feeling great this morning. Okay, let's talk about a better outcome. This one's brought to you by ConstructoCat. Let's talk about merging code. I'm going to do a bit of a diversion at this point and talk mostly about the technical mechanics of getting code merged into a repository. Right, we'll talk about the review stuff in a moment, but actually merging code is kind of a key thing in itself. And if you are not accustomed to doing it every day, maybe your team thinks that you are not senior enough, right? There's a lot that we can talk about here that can help you to become more confident. I think the person that reviews the code, that decides it is ready to be part of your project, should be the person that merges your code. Now, this is a fairly unusual pattern. I see lots and lots of, well, the developer wrote it, so they must deploy it, and somebody else just clicks the green tick button in the middle on GitHub. I like reviewers to merge for 2 reasons. First of all, I think it focuses the mind. I would like you to consider putting this code live onto production immediately after you've approved this pull request. Kind of helps you think about the possible side effects a little bit more, right? But also, it helps things move more quickly. Once this code is approved, we've said, yes, it can be merged now. Why would you wait for the developer to become available again? You know, I've worked part-time, I'm now in developer relations, so I travel a lot, I'm not always available. But work in progress has a cost. Don't wait for me to get back in the office. If it is ready to merge, somebody merge it. And that's why I like the reviewer to do it. I think it really helps you to think about it. Delays are a huge problem, right? Work in progress has a cost. The work that you've done might be great, but if it hangs about, it is decaying. We are more likely to have lost context to things that are happening in master. We are more likely to have merge conflicts. We are more likely to be stepping on other people's features because we've left this thing hanging about, right? Old, stale pull request queues are a problem. And by approving it and then not merging it immediately, we contribute to that problem. Work in progress has a cost. So when you review it and it's good to go, then make it go. Just ship it, we're good. Having a second person review is, listen, I've been freelance, I've been a sole maintainer. I can't tell you how much I value having another human available to me to ask the questions that should have been asked, to spot the var dumps that somehow made it into the commit history, right? This is an incredible superpower. When you review my pull request, we are more than twice as good as either one of us alone. It is such an important thing. If you work in an industry that has PCI compliance or any other auditing type things, you will find this is a requirement, that the person who wrote the code may not put it live. This is for very sensible reasons. It's to stop employees putting backdoors into important financial systems. It also stops me making stupid mistakes that are not intentional, because you can catch those as well. I sometimes find that some developers think they don't need the second pair of eyes. Right? They need to see yours, but they're allowed to merge directly themselves. This is about how you think about other people. I find enormous value in any pull request review, even if it is the most junior person on the team. That most junior person asks the best questions and has saved me from all kinds of things where I thought I knew what I was doing. That's really dangerous. If you think you know what you're doing, you definitely need a pull request review. So I always like that second pair of eyes, and I always value it. If you are a sole developer, in my case, sole maintainer, I've joined in for a bunch of years, and also freelance. I know some of you do work alone. Now, the only advice I can give you is this. Open the pull request, sleep, and on a different day, come back to this change with fresh eyes and try and view it as a new person and catch the things that you didn't catch the first time around. I don't want to make rules about this. I don't want to make rules about who has to do the merge. If it looks like it's going to be tricky Git, then I do all those merges on my team because I'm the person with the most Git battle scars. I'm not sure it's even skills. I think it's just experience, war stories. So if somebody else needs to merge it, that's fine. But for day-to-day work, if you think it's good to go, push it. There are a few things to look out for when you're merging code. Mostly merge conflicts. Now, I find GitHub fascinating. Right. I guess I've only been doing Git since GitHub was a thing, but I do a lot that doesn't use GitHub, and other really good Git hosting services are available. This is very GitHub-centric, but you can translate for whatever code hosting you're using. And GitHub encourages you to keep clicking buttons in the web interface without really running the code or using any of your own tools until the going gets tough. And then it says, oh, there's a conflict, you can use tools you've never seen before now. I hate this, because it means we're in an unfamiliar setting. Lots of us use graphical IDEs now. We don't spend time at the command line. You're not comfortable with those tools. You don't see them every day, so now you're freaking out because you've got to type something. It's not a comfortable way to solve a problem. So I typically merge on the command line all the time, really at the slightest provocation, because then I'm comfortable with those tools. I know how things look when they're going well, and I know how to tell if I'm in trouble. I'm accustomed to the output that it gives me. So, merge conflicts are not always a bad thing. In a busy project, there will always be a few. Typically, adding extra lines to a config file, you've all added the same line. You know, if you've got bug fixes that have been fixed in more than one place, they'll probably conflict. They're often not major, they're often not really a problem, and you're not doing anything wrong if you see them. Right? Git conflicts are part of the deal. If it's every pull request and it's a nightmare, you are definitely doing something wrong, right? And that might be that your pull requests are too large, that your branches are open for too long, there's too much in each thing. If you're seeing a lot of merge conflicts, then that's a process problem, not a technical problem. A few, it just isn't that unusual, like 1 in 10, absolutely ordinary. I want you to know a couple of things about merging Git conflicts on the command line. First of all, if at any time you have begun a merge and you regretted it, right, Git status will tell you you are merging, right, bad things are going on, you can type this, git merge -- abort, and it will be as if nothing happened. Okay? So this is always here. There's no reason now why you shouldn't attempt a merge, knowing that GitHub said there was a conflict. Oh, pro tip, often there isn't. Sometimes GitHub just thinks there's going to be. So you try that merge, and if at any panicky and bogged down, or it's time to go for lunch and you don't want to leave it in the middle, git merge -- abort is always there. No excuses for not trying. If you do git merge a branch and you get conflicts, if you can work a text editor, you can resolve a merge conflict. Okay. So first of all, you're going to type git status. Git status is going to tell you what to do at every step of the process. It's going to say, these files are fine, these ones have conflicts. And the status line above it says, edit the files to resolve the conflicts. Okay. So you've got to edit the files. It gives you some ASCII art marker. You're going to find it, you're going to fix it. Just check there's not more than one in each file. Feel like that catches me out a lot. Right? You open the file, there's a conflict on line 3, you go, aha, I'm a genius, and you fix it. And then you save the file. You've just written the rest of the conflicts to the file. I like to search for the conflict. So in PHP, 4 equal signs is not valid syntax, it's probably a git conflict. So even if I can see it, I search for it, and then I search again before I close the file. I would love to tell you that I've never committed it again since, I'd be lying, but it does help. So you edit all these files and fix them, just make them look like you want them to look. You actually want a whole copy of the file from the master branch or the feature branch, there are switches for that. So there are shorthands if you need them. Once you've edited them all, git status will say, you should do git add now. So you can do git add now. And after you've done that, git status will say, type git commit to complete the merge. So you can type git commit and it will complete the merge, and there you are, you've resolved the conflict. So it's just about seeing which files have conflicted, editing them so they look like you want them to look because you're a developer, so you know how they should look. Hopefully your IDE will show you there's a syntax problem and help you catch those second and third conflicts in a file. And just add them. I really think there's value in doing this on a regular basis, not just when you know there are conflicts. I like to work this way. A couple of other things can sometimes come up if you are contributing to different projects, and I've seen this both in commercial teams and in open source. You may be asked to rebase your branch, and you may be asked to squash your branch into a single commit. Different projects work in different ways. Some of them will require this. They are completely dissimilar to each other, except they use the same git command, because Git is like that. And it is git rebase. Typically, when we ask you to rebase your branch, we're asking you to get your changes and replay them on the current status of master. So you've got something that looks like this. If you imagine the master branch is along the bottom with the white blobs, and this is your fantastic feature that you've created, branched off, right? We've got this feature branch. It is a masterpiece, but we've been asked to rebase it. So all we do is all Git does is unplug this change from here and then replay each commit one at a time. So they end up over there. They get new commit references because they've got different parents. To understand rebasing, it really helps you understand branches. Branches in Git are a lie. A branch is a pointer to a commit. It is just a label. So you think about your feature branch, it points to this commit way over on the right-hand side. That's all it has. When you ask for the branch, Git goes, oh yes, it's this commit. Every commit knows what its parent is. So it goes, oh, and that's that commit, that's that parent, that's that parent, that's that parent, and it traces back the ancestry, and it presents it to you as a branch. It's not a branch, it's not real, it's a lie. But it's a really useful imaginary construct for us to think about chains of commits and how things go together. I've abandoned putting arrows on my Git diagrams completely, because humans kind of think I committed this arrow, and then I committed this arrow, and then I committed this. But if you look at the Git commits, every commit knows about its parent. So the arrows are going this way. If your Git, I've given up. I just haven't got arrows anymore. It doesn't make any sense. So this is what the rebase does. When you're asked to rebase a branch, we're asking you to replay your changes as if you just did it right now. Please get your branches in sync. The interesting command is on 4, check out the feature, and git rebase master. That is it. Are rebase conflicts a thing? Yes. Are they any different to merge conflicts? No, but there are often more of them. Because when you merge a feature branch into a master branch, you're doing one merge. And when you do a rebase, you're replaying each commit. So you're doing as many merges as there are commits. So you can end up feeling like you're stuck in a loop, but you're not. You're making progress every time. Have a look at the last line. When you rebase your feature branch, you have rewritten history. All of those commits, even though they contain the same changes, have different parents. So you are not able to push this branch without force pushing it. Please do not go back to the office and say, Lorna Jane said we could force push. She did not say that. I did not say, you can totally force push, go for it. Right. You can force push if you are certain that your branch was up to date with the remote before you did anything to it. If you are certain that no one else is currently working on this branch, and if you are certain that everybody else on the team knows what to do if you spontaneously rewrite the history of a branch they are currently working on. Right, so there's a lot of dependencies there. You may force push if you are confident you are in sync, if you are confident you're not walking on anyone else's work, and if you're confident that your colleagues will know what to do when you trip them up. If those are not true, you're not going to rewrite history. Okay, let's talk about squashing. I see this really often on big open source projects. I strongly, I'm being laughed at by co-committers here. I strongly dislike squash. I literally can't see a good reason for it. I've understood all the reasons. I can see some advantages, but I don't think it's a net win. And I think that's controversial. Squashing takes all of your commits, combines them into one commit, and then typically you fast forward that one commit on the branch. So you end up with a git log on master that is just a series of very large commits, each of which introduces a whole feature. Which could sound really good, so why don't I like it? I don't like it because we lose data. We throw away the metadata, the original commit history. Now, it sort of depends on your commit style as to whether that matters or not. All of your commits have messages that say fixed. I can afford to lose that, yeah. If you have a team culture, or indeed a personal culture, regardless of what else is going on, of committing in logical units of thought, first of all adding the script for the database patch, then adding the bit for this, adding the template, updating the reporting API that's a side effect, adding the tests first, right? You can see these commits going through, you can see how it built. I've been an open source maintainer for a lot of years. I did Git rescue for a lot of years. Like, I have done Git archaeology on projects that I recommend you never work on. And I'd prefer it if we didn't throw away the metadata. It's very much a matter of taste, but for me, I prefer to see truth over beauty. So I'd rather see what really happened, warts and all, and I prefer to keep it. And if you are asked to squash, it's Git rebase again, but it's interactive rebase. Now this is interesting because I use interactive rebase loads, right? But I don't use it to squash all my commits down into one. I use it when my commit history says Lorna has fixed the bug. Lorna has actually fixed it this time. Lorna has fixed the bug. Lorna has remembered to add all the files this time, right? Sound familiar to anyone? And for that situation, using git rebase -i enables you just to combine those last two commits, or take one out that really shouldn't have been there because you committed to the wrong branch and didn't realise. Right? All of this can help you. So how does it work? You do git rebase with -i, which is for interactive. You're going to go on and give some further instructions. Then you give the commit reference that you're interested in. If you're squashing a whole branch, this is going to be the last commit that was also on master, so where we branched off from. When you run this command, you will be presented with a list of commits in a text editor, and you can edit history very directly, very Linux kernel developer, literally edit the lines in your text file. The thing that confuses me about this is when you run git log, the newest commit is first, and when you run this in a text file, the oldest commit is first. So there's always a moment where my brain is like, sorry, what? Okay, so you get a text file, and it says pick, there's a commit, and then you can see the commit message. So you can go through and be like, I need to reword this commit message. This commit should never have happened at all. Delete it. Right? I want this one to have happened first. I want these three to be combined. And you just go through and edit each line saying what should have happened there. I mostly use it, like I say, to try and look more like the well-paid consultant that I am. To try and look like I can get all the right files in the right commits at the right time, which I don't always on the first attempt. When you do this, the instructions are all in the file, so just scroll down. I have some videos of this that I will try and publish for you. If you're interested, let me know. Yeah, so I think how much you need to rebase depends a bit on your team culture, on your project culture. It depends how much you want. Depends how much you read your logs. It depends how well you are committing before you open the pull requests. I mean, if it looks like this, thanks XKCD. If it looks like this, starting out really good and then kind of going downhill, I have definitely ended up at my hands on typing words stage, especially when firefighting before. Then interactive rebase would allow you to try and refactor this into something that you're a little bit more proud of before you open your pull request for other people. I could give a whole talk about Git commit messages, and you haven't got time for this. So instead, I want you all, for homework, to read the link here. I'll tweet it out for you later as well, about how to write Git commit messages. Kind of regardless of what your team does, I think this is up to you. Right? You're the developer, you're making the commits, you decide how good you want to be. You decide what quality you are working at. I'm entirely indifferent to how senior your colleagues think you are. You get to choose how well you do this. And it's something that you'll take with you with all the projects that you work on in the future, right? It's your call. Some projects have rules about what must be done, but it's up to you to decide how well you want to do this. Okay, wow, that was a long story. Let's talk about reviewing pull requests. Reviewing pull requests, it's not really a GitHub status, didn't have it on my flow at the start, but it's a key part of the project, and it's where all the drama happens, if it's going to. Being a good pull request reviewer seems like a soft skill. Secretly, it's a superpower. It's what makes you a 10 times developer. Being able to really understand what's going on and pick things up. It makes you very valuable to your team as a reviewer, but it makes you the best developer that you can be. So I think this is the most important part of the process. When you review, when you really think about what's needed in a review, this is what makes your pull requests better. Yes, you're making other people's better with your excellent reviews, and I'll talk about that. But the reason it's a key skill is because it improves your pull requests as well. When you review a pull request, remember we're looking for improvements, we're looking for better, we're not looking for perfect. I'm a big fan of things that work, even if you've written it in a way that I wouldn't have. Right? And if we all wrote the same very simple example, we would get this many different versions of it, and we should do. So our code should all look different. When you begin to review a pull request, there is something very important that you must not do. You must not view the diff. I've already been rude about GitHub's web interface. If you go to review a pull request, GitHub will present you with the diff, and it will give you the opportunity to nitpick line by line every single single part of that pull request. It's a trap for the mediocre. Please do not fall into it. Do not view the diff, do not pass go, do not collect £200. I will tell you when you can view the diff. Instead, I want you to think about, what are we doing here? What are we achieving? Hopefully, the title lets you know what this pull request is about. If not, why did you click on it? I edit a lot of titles because we often have a list of pull requests that can take us some time to get back to. Right, I edit a lot of titles to tell me immediately what this thing is for and what it does. The description should also tell you what this is and what it does. Tell me why I care. Is it an issue? Is there a ticket for it? Are there some acceptance criteria? Were there no acceptance criteria when you opened this pull request? In which case, did you invent some? Right, give me a clue. Tell me what page it's on. Right? If it's a very straightforward, this fixes a particular bug, well, cool, I'll update master, replicate the bug, excellent, check out your branch, then run the code again, the bug is fixed, marvellous. I will view the diff, but I know where to look and I know that you fixed it. I once had a situation that I have forgotten the exact details of, but somebody will correct me, where it was something like a subset of users couldn't log in to join in. We had a fairly major problem, and I really didn't know why. And the next morning, a really regular and trusted contributor to that project opened a pull request that implemented a function. And the pull request title was like, implements the swings the cat function, whatever this function was. I am busy, I am tired, I open the diff, it does indeed declare a function, it doesn't call it, it's not used anywhere. Excellent. Okay, I'll come back to this. I've got questions. Later in the day, same contributor pings me and says, you didn't merge pull request. Do we need a swings the cat function? What's that about? Oh, it fixes the login bug. Your pull request needs to say that. Like, I have no idea why this is important. We had deleted a function that was crucial. Something was going wrong, I don't know. Right, imagine every pull request you ever write is reviewed by somewhat tired and busy Lorna. Right? Try and explain to me why this is important. Tell me why I care. Tell me why I should try it. Explain to me what it fixes. Right, the words are a really important part of your pull request. I must understand what it does and what it is for. At that point, you will not view the diff. Okay? Stay away from the GitHub diff view. Instead, think about, okay, I know what bug this is going to fix. What shape am I expecting this to be? How should this pull request look? Will it be very large? Will it be just in the templates? I had one, I was working for a PHP rescue consultancy at the time, which was like, oh, we update the footer, and you think to yourself, okay, probably just a template change. Then I opened the diff, and it was like a 100-line database statement. This is not what I was expecting. It turned out it was just a really bad legacy CMS problem, and like all the config was in one row anyway. It was the correct pull request. But you have to have that moment where you go, is this the way that we should fix this problem? Right, what are you expecting? Because when you think about what you expect, then it makes it more possible for you to say what is missing. And that's what we're really looking for when you review a pull request. We are nearly there, but please don't view the diff yet. We've thought about what it's even for, we've thought about how we would implement it and what our expectations are. I want you to get the code and poke at it. Look at this pull request. What's going on with it? Does it work? Can you make it not work? I can. I can break most things, right? And that's part of my superpower. You've got to be able to see what's not there. You've got to be able to see what that original developer didn't think of. Right? I'm often coming at it from a different angle to the other developers on my team, and that's a good thing, because it means I put in different values or break stuff. I'm also a disabled user, so I apply accessibility tools to everything I see, because that's how I use the web. So typically, I will break it. If there's anything you're not sure about, when you see it running, whether you have deployed to a review app, which we have on next node developer, which is great because everything can just go onto Heroku, we can all click around, whether you're running it locally. If you have questions, please ask them now. I'd really like to discuss it now, before you put my change live, right? Just let's talk about the stuff that you're not sure about, because it's totally possible that I overlooked something. The way that you talk about pull requests really matters. Please don't ask someone to merge your pull request. Please ask them to review it. And when you're examining a pull request, think of it as a review, right? Try and approach it with an open mind. Little bit of cynicism is good, a bit suspicion. Just, you know, we've got to support this forever. It's going on our live platform, it's going to affect all our users. Just a little hesitation, I think, is really important in the way that we approach it. So you are reviewing a pull request, you are opening that process. And we may go backwards and forwards with a bunch of people adding things or commenting, adding code, fixing stuff, answering questions, didn't get enough test coverage, right? The review process and backwards and forwards can go on for a while. But this is about attitude. It's about making pull requests the best they can be and bringing them up to a standard that meets our shared goals. Okay, you can look at the code, please. I really don't like the GitHub diff view. It's good enough for small things, for sure. But it's really good if you can take this opportunity to run the code and think about what is not here. What did I forget? Do we need to update the reports because I changed the database field? Is this going to knock on to another template? Is there an Ajax call we didn't update? Like, what do we have here? Think about what is missing. This is something all of us can do, and we don't try hard enough. And the diff encourages us to look at what is there, and that's why I don't like it. Right? Think about what is not there. Think about how easy this will be to deploy. Presumably it worked on a laptop of the developer who opened the pull request. What's that going to look like at scale? What's it going to be like to get it onto live? What did they have to do to make it run locally? Have we got extra dependencies? What's going on? What's it going to be like to operate? Have we got the logging that we need? Have we got the instrumentation that we need? Are we really production ready with this? Those non-functionals are really key, and they're something we all need to think about. This is the part where the magic happens, and any developer can get better at this, right? Any developer, just write yourself a checklist. Will it deploy? Will it scale? Have we missed anything? You know, that when you see something that you often miss, such as you work on a platform that has reports, and it's your checklist to think about. Whatever it takes to help you to think what might not be there and to catch things before they go onto the live platform, ideally including that var dump that I snuck in somewhere, sorry. Make sure that you have a clear view of the code that went in. Get to know the diff tools that you have on your local machine. Probably your IDE has some diff abilities. It may even be able to just show you the changes in a branch, which is super helpful. If not, Git can do this. So Git Diff, if you just check out a feature branch and diff against master, you get all the differences between the tip of master and the tip of your feature branch. So if things have happened on master, that can be quite noisy. But if you use this 3 dots notation, git diff master ... head, when you're on the feature branch, so head is your current commit, it will show you everything that's happened along this branch. You can view that diff, so you're viewing the whole feature branch diff. I find that incredibly helpful, use it all the time. Replace git diff in any context with git diff tool, and you will get a graphical diff. So you will get side-by-side, scroll it, looks very nice, type diff in the tools of your choice. If you have GitHub Desktop installed, it'll probably default to that. If you have a preferred GUI tool, then you can configure it. Just look up how to configure the diff tool. Go to Stack Overflow and say to it, git diff tool, name of the tool you would like to use. Click on the first link. Then accept the most voted answer, not the accepted one. That will probably work on your system. Mine is all Vim diff, but that that also enables me to see it side by side. The standard diff is horrible, especially for things like prose, and you can also get cool diff for seeing the differences between images. I've got one that can diff to documents, like Word doc style. Lots and lots of tooling. If you need that kind of thing, then set it up, find out how to configure it. Let's get the machines on our side. There are two reasons for this. One is the machines do it right every time, which is a lot unlike humans. Have the machines do the easy stuff. Have them run the tests. Have them run a lint check. You'd be amazed how often that picks things up. Have them run your coding standards. We have a really nice feature on developer.nextmo.com that Michael built, where it's actually a Rails project that dynamically builds all the pages. So we have a job that builds all of the pages on the site. So if I'm going to break a page, we find out when I open the pull request. The other reason that I like this is it's much easier to take criticism from a robot. Like, it shouldn't be, but it is. It's just so not personal. It's completely different to somebody being like, what are you doing with tabs there? Right? Just, the coding standards just fails, and you go, oh yeah. And then you have one more commit that fixes the coding standards. Make sure that you're doing this easy stuff and you have it automated. Right? Get set up with Travis or Circle CI or whatever. Get this stuff in so that we get it, the simple things, right, because the technology is the easy part, we get those in repeatedly, right, every time. So that's the easy feedback. You open the pull request, the build fails, you fix the coding standards. Okay, now I need a human. Offering feedback for pull requests it's an art, and it's a really important part of the way of how we communicate as developers. Opening a pull request is one part of the conversation, and the way that you conduct yourself in the discussion is another part of that conversation. If you open a pull request and you get flamed, you're on the wrong project. I realise that if this happens at work, it means you're in the wrong job, and I'm not sorry about that, right? You need to change jobs. If you're seeing it in open source, I don't want to hear you say that that's what GitHub is like. Stay out of the kitchen if you can't take the heat. No, it isn't. There are lots of excellent projects on GitHub that will be very polite and delighted to meet you. So if you are getting flamed in response to your pull requests, you just haven't found the right project yet. I have a bunch of suggestions for you if you need them. Just move on. It is not a way to communicate. A lot of the time, if you go on like formal training courses for how to offer feedback to people, you'll be recommended the sandwich method. And this is where you say something nice, then you offer your constructive criticism with polite words, and then you end with something else nice. So there's like the bread and then the sandwich. I don't love that, and it's a little bit out of fashion, but for pull requests, it at least reminds me to open with the good. Right? If this pull request is nearly there, then say so. If you are pleased to see this feature, then say so. Right? At least say thank you. Right? It doesn't hurt. So try to open with something nice. If you have constructive feedback to offer, then this falls into one of two categories. The first category is what I call showstoppers. These are things that make this pull request absolutely unacceptable in its current form. If there are showstoppers in the pull request, all of them need to be offered in the feedback. Be kind, be clear, explain why it's a showstopper, and explain how to fix it. For every single one of those things that applies. For things that you don't like, but which don't actually prevent this pull request from being merged, you may offer feedback up to a maximum of 3 points. Pick the top 3 things and then shut up. Right? I am not interested in your extensive critique of my JavaScript syntax. If it works and it passes the coding standard, then awesome, shut up, let's merge it. Right? Reams and reams of nitpicking things that actually are good enough, not helpful. If we can't merge it because of a showstopper, tell me why, tell me how to fix it. If there's something you just didn't like, I'll hear it, but I don't want too much. Right? And especially for junior developers. Maximum of 3 pieces of feedback. because otherwise it destroys them and they go into accountancy instead. If you find that there are things missing in open source, sometimes you will just add the missing things yourself, right? If you think that that contributor might not return, or if you want to get it merged more quickly. For your colleagues, I recommend that you coach them to get it right next time, because you've got to work with them all the time, right? So colleagues, not coming into shape a little bit more, you're stuck with them. Open source committers, you might just want to fix it yourself. I have one more thing to say about reviewing pull requests, and it is this. If you didn't run the code, you didn't review the pull request. Right. What we're going to do with this code when we put it on live, we're going to run it. Pull request review is about trust. When I review your pull request, I have got your back. I am going to make sure this pull request is as good as it can be. I'm going to run it, I'm going to kick it, I'm going to try and make sure that it's everything it could be before I approve that pull request. So please return the favour, right? If you merge my code and my code doesn't actually run, you're embarrassing us both. You didn't review the pull request if you didn't run the code or see it run. So whether you have a sample app, a staging server, a local dev platform, learn how to get that code and run it. Okay, you're qualified to open pull requests. Opening the pull request is about detail. It's about showcasing the code that you have written, right? You've built this feature and you come to open the pull request. Tell me why it's awesome, right? Give me a really meaningful title that's going to make me pick it out of a big list of busy pull requests and be like, oh, I'll get this merged today. Let's get this one in before lunch. That looks great, right? Give me a really descriptive, meaningful title. Let's take advantage of the machines again. If you put fixes, #123, in your description on GitHub, then this pull request will get a link to issue 123. Issue 123 will get a link to this pull request, and when we merge the pull request, it will close the issue. So we're linking things together. The machine can do that for us, so do it. It is all about psychology, right? You want the reviewer to understand this thing that you have worked so hard on. The code is not self-documenting. The code does not speak for itself. You need to champion it, right? Make it easy. Show the reviewer the acceptance criteria, link to the issue, whatever it is you need to do. Help them understand why this was important. As a project owner, which in our work teams we all are, there's a bunch of things you can put in place. Now, for open source, this helps onboard unfamiliar people, but in a commercial team, it helps onboard new hires. Having a README that describes what this project is, what it does. The contributing file that helps explain how to set up the dev platform, how to open a pull request. Are there rules about having a ticket first? Are there rules about branch naming? Are there rules about squashing or rebasing? Right? Try and write down your unwritten expectations. I've said my piece about the automated checks. Those are really important too. I have recently started using pull request templates, which I've never liked because they're very web-based. But actually, they're really helping me now. I think there's a bunch of places where a pull request template is useful, and this is twofold. First of all, they help spell out things you should have done when you opened a pull request on this repository. We use OpenAPI specifications for all our APIs, so you can download a machine-readable description of our API, feed it to Postman, play with it out of the box, generate code, whatever. So we have all of that. When we change the specs, we bump the version number. So I've added a pull request template to that repo which says, I have bumped the version number checkbox when you open the pull request. So about 30% of the time, then I have to go and bump the version number and try and open the pull request. So it's serving its purpose. The other reason that I like pull request templates is if you haven't filled it, I'm trying to be diplomatic, that's the delay, it's not going well. If you haven't filled in the pull request template, I know exactly how much care you took with all of the rest of your pull requests as well. Right? If that's empty, you didn't edit it, I know how, I'm judging you completely on that. So if you haven't filled in the pull request template, you probably haven't written a test, run the tests, check the syntax. Right? There's a bunch of stuff going to be wrong with this. I am probably not going to pick it out of a big list of pull requests and feel good that I can get your thing merged before lunch. It tells me immediately how much care you took over what you did. Having these things in place is about paving the paths you want people to walk. It's about getting people to go the way you want them to go. It's about setting people up for the expectations and for the success that we want them all to have. Pull requests are a meritocracy. By thinking about how the process works and what makes them more mergeable, more acceptable, we've come back to the beginning to think about what's important in your own pull requests. You've got some extra Git tips for free because I can't help myself. Your pull requests should be accepted on their merits, so make sure that yours have merit. It's a key skill. As developers, this is how we get work done. This is how we communicate. So let's be open and deliberate about being better at this, at being really good at a thing that forms so much of our working lives. I have a few resources for you. Please go and leave me some words on joined in. If you wanted to have a pull request template for joined in, it would say, I liked something that you liked. I would change something that you didn't like. That'd be great, because I give lots of talks. I'll be making the same mistakes to audiences all over the world. I wrote a book on Git by accident once. It's an ebook on LeanPub. You go there and get it. I blog about this stuff at lornajane.net. I use some scripts to help me, which are there. And of course, all of the image credits go to oxodex.github.com. I do not have an arty brain, but I really enjoyed having all the little critters in my presentation today. That's it from me. Thanks a lot for your attention.